This is the Canon R6 Mark III, and it might just be the best value camera of this year. A full frame 7K 32 megapixel mirrorless camera that is so good on paper that it even had me asking after 5 days of testing it, okay, what is the catch? Because Canon has managed to fit more resolution, more video options, more features into this camera that it almost feels like I'm making a mistake when I say this is supposed to be a mid-range value option, when really, with everything it has going on, it feels like it should be a top-of-the-line model. So what are we getting with the R6 Mark III? Well, on the surface, the button layout, the body contouring is the same, which means that any cages that you had that worked with an R6 II or an R5 II should also work with the R6 Mark III. Now, 3 of the buttons have an extra secondary function. The rate button now has a color feature that calls up the picture profile menu and allows you to change all of your log settings. The multifunction button with one click allows you to send photos from the camera to the smartphone app, and the record button allows you to switch in playback mode between viewing photos and viewing videos. And we have one extra new mode. So on the physical mode dial, you can see that there is now an S&F mode. I'm gonna ask Will what his first thoughts are on the R6 Mark III. Sir William.
Anthony, what are you doing here?
I have a surprise.
That's what I think it is?
It might be.
Mark III.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
You see it?
I see it.
Hold on, we're not gonna tell them right now. That's for later in the video. Actually, should we? Hold on, let's show them.
I just took a little peek into the memory card slot, and I found something that my R6 Mark II doesn't have. That is a CF Express slot. The funny thing about the CF Express cards is a really fast SD card is not that much cheaper than a regular CF Express card.
Yep.
The CF Express card is way faster. So,
Hold on,
wait,
that's segment number 2.
Wait.
I know this is gonna be a point of contention for some people because some people just love SD cards. They're cheap, they're affordable. But once you've tried a CF Express Type B card and you plug it into your computer, the transfer rates are just so fast, especially if you're someone who does video, which of course we'll talk more about the video specs later on in this video. Now on the other side of the camera, which Will hasn't quite noticed just yet, is a full-size HDMI port. And you'll notice that the layout is a little bit more friendly, so we have more space to plug in our USB-C port and all of our cables. But on the other side, we do have that upgraded memory card slot for CF Express Type B, which not only means we can offload our files faster, but it also means we can handle video files with more bit rate, which again is gonna be important because this camera has a larger 7K sensor. And if you've got questions, if you're wondering, okay, how does all this play out? Let me know your comments and your thoughts down below. Is there anything that so far you're wondering, is it missing? What could the R6 Mark III possibly not have that you're curious about? But I know some of you are gonna be thinking, okay, R6 Mark III 7K sensor versus R5 Mark II 8K sensor. Like, it doesn't seem that big of a difference. So what exactly is going on with this camera sensor? Explore the camera for a bit. Don't say it. I wanna keep things a surprise for the rest of the video. But I understand Will immediately is going into all the settings. And it's the first thing I did when I got the camera. Oh, it has this. Oh, it has this. Oh, it has this.
I told myself I wasn't gonna buy a new camera. For like a while.
So we're looking at a difference because I haven't told you about the sensor yet. So the sensor in the R5 II is 8K, 45 megapixels. This is 7K, 32.5 or like 32 megapixels.
Is it the C50 sensor?
Yes. So it is the same sensor in the R6 III that is in the C50.
Does that mean triple base ISO?
So the C50 has a dual base ISO.
That's a C80.
The official answer is no. I'll tell you more about it in a bit. Knowing all of this, how do you feel knowing that Canon popped in the same sensor that's in a much more expensive camera?
Normally I wouldn't make a one generational upgrade with cameras, but this might be worth it.
That's how I feel. That's how I feel about it. Going from the R6 I to the R6 II was a big improvement because it unlocked unlimited recording. The R6 I had a lot of limitations. That was my first mirrorless camera. Now, if Canon had the R6 III at the same time, when I was first getting a mirrorless camera and it was a choice between the R6 III and the R5 II, right now, there's not as big of a difference. Obviously, there's things like build quality and all these little fine details that we'll talk about. But I think for the average person who wants to make that jump to full frame, the choice between 7K 33 and 8K 45 is like so small because there aren't really any features that are missing from the R6 III. There's one that I want that's very video specific, but
I think I know what you're talking about. I think I just found it.
You think you found it? What did you find?
I found it.
So you're probably happy to hear that the R6 Mark III uses the same 7K sensor that's in the C50, which is gonna be great news for video or hybrid shooters. That means we should expect that the image quality coming out of the C50 and the R6 III are the same. Now, I haven't had a chance to put them side by side, but in terms of photo, that's when we're gonna start to see the difference because the R6 Mark III has a viewfinder, which is important for photography. It also has more photo-specific features and a mechanical shutter, which means we're gonna be getting full 14-bit RAW files. R6 III doesn't have the Digic X accelerator. It has the Digic X processor, but not the Digic accelerator, which means the readout is not gonna be as fast as something like the R5 II. The R5 II and the R1 are still gonna have much faster readout speeds, but it's at that threshold, it's at that point that it almost doesn't even matter. Like, it is fast enough that you're not gonna notice the rolling shutter. And again, you have that mechanical shutter if you are doing photos at like, what, 12 photos per second? Something like that. Well, I'm asking Will as if he knows. He has no idea. Anyways, there we go. Okay, so I need to read my notes to make sure I have this right, but 12 frames per second mechanical, 40 electronic, the same autofocus modes as the R5 Mark II, and you get 10 people faces to register. So if you like take a picture of me, you can add it to your camera and it will like lock onto my face. 20 shots pre-continuous shooting, 150 shot raw bursts, and 280 if you do C-RAW. So that is a significant improvement considering the fact that this is now a 33 megapixel sensor, so it's pushing even more data than it was before. Also, the IBIS, 8.5 stops at the center, 7.5 stops at the edges. You get 1/320th of a second flash sync, and 500,000 shutter cycles. So 500,000 shutter cycles, which is actually equivalent to the R5 Mark II. But I haven't had time to test every single photo feature quite just yet because I've literally only had this camera in my hand for a few days. Now, thankfully, Canon USA has given me 3 more weeks with the R6 Mark III that we're actually recording on right now. So this might be a good demo of a talking head setup. But sadly, the camera does need to go back. No, Canon is not paying me to do this first impressions tech overview video. And as you know, the only way that I get paid is if you watch these videos, check out my Lightroom presets, so buy my Lightroom presets down in the description, or click that top link, which is exactly how we're getting paid for this video right now. AI is taking over. Okay, not actually, but it is taking over a lot of the space inside my brain, meaning I've been thinking a lot lately about how to use it in the best way possible and how to use it responsibly. But Artlist, who is the sponsor of today's video, has music, sound effects, which we all know and love that I'm using right now to make this video, but they also have a full set of AI image and video tools, which might sound counterintuitive to creating your own images, but the idea isn't that it replaces it, it's that it augments it. So this last month, I went deep into Artlist and used all of my Artlist credits to test the different models, the different image and video generation models that they have. One of the ways that I did that was to generate assets for my YouTube thumbnails. So whether you're generating thumbnails or need assets for Photoshop or for your graphic design, one of the best ways and most responsible ways that I can think of to use AI is to use it in a way that generates assets that just financially wouldn't be feasible. Like this gold colored Hasselblad camera, like let's be honest, Hasselblad is not gonna be making a gold colored camera, a gold plated 24 karat gold camera anytime soon, but I was curious. But if you go through my history, you can see I've also used it to generate little bits of pieces that I've thrown into my thumbnails, and you probably didn't even notice. Like this Blue Jay that I photoshopped into the Toronto skyline for the World Series, which we don't need to talk about. It still hurts me. But Artlist gives you access to all the latest AI models, including Google VEO3 and Sora 2, which are the two main models that I've been using and the ones that have been used to generate the images and the videos that you've seen in this segment. And if you want to try it for yourself, you can actually use my exclusive link right at the top of the description to give you 2 months free off of any of their annual plans. Check out that link, let Artlist know that I sent you, and big thanks to Artlist for continuing to be a supporter of this channel and everything that I do. Now, back to the R6 Mark III. You've probably guessed it by now, but the camera does have an unofficial second base ISO, so it's the same as the C50. You get 800, which is your standard base ISO in C-Log 2, and 6400. So when you look at these tests, you can see as I'm going up through the ISO settings, it gets noisier. Up until about 5000, which, it's pretty noisy, but then boom, it cleans up. So my recommendation is stick to those two base ISOs, and actually 8000 and 10,000 looked even cleaner than 5000. Now I don't have the ability to test the dynamic range, but in terms of ISO performance, that is what you're getting.
I think I just found it.
You think you found it? What did you find?
Well, there's a nice little setting right below the movie record format that says open gate.
Yeah.
Does everyone know what open gate means?
Everyone knows what open gates means. Okay, so obviously the C50 is a much more robust video camera. It has a fan, it will never overheat. On paper, it's supposed to never overheat. The R6 III has no active venting. It is just passive. And there are some record limits. However, last night I did a raw test. Raw video in 30 frames per second because I didn't realize it has raw video in 60 frames per second. There's so many different settings that you can configure that if you do it the wrong way, you won't unlock certain modes. Anyways, basically I did a raw test at 7K, 30 frames per second, and the camera never got past 4 ticks on like the heat mode, the heat meter. Will is now discovering it has C-Log 2, so perfect for your workflows so that you don't have to have C-Log 3 on one camera and C-Log 2 on another. Now you can have your C50s, your C80s, your R52s, and your R6 IIIs all with C-Log 2. Having both C-Log 3 and now C-Log 2 in the R6 Mark III is gonna be a big incentive for a lot of users to pick up this camera. But the magic sauce really is that CF Express Type B card slot. That is what is going to allow us to have a ton of more video options. And when I say a ton, I literally mean like this has every recording format that you could possibly want. So you get long GOP and all intra in 3 different flavors. So like a high, a medium, a low bit rate. And you get internal RAW and internal RAW light. So if you're doing a full 7K recording, 16:9, the bit rate is approximately 970 megabits per second. If you still wanna do external RAW, that's supported through the HDMI port, which can now like record to the card and send the signal at the same time. So it's kind of like the same as the R5 Mark II, whereas the old R6 Mark II couldn't do it. So the R6 Mark III can do that. But for recording formats, 7K 60p RAW, 4K 120p, that is with or without audio, not oversampled, 2K 180p, and for 4K, you actually get 4K UHD, DCI, 24 or 60p in that fine oversampled mode. And when you put the two side by side, the fine just looks so good. Sadly, the R5 Mark II doesn't have 4K fine in 60p, so the R6 III kind of beats it in that perspective. And there are so many more that I'm sure I'm missing because Canon showed me the list and I was just like, But to give you an example of what OpenGate looks like, so here is a 7K OpenGate. I've scaled it down to fit this video, and then I'm overlaying 4K DCI. You can see when you go down to 4K UHD, there's that little bar that you don't get on the side. So if you want to use the full width of the sensor oversampled, make sure you're using DCI.
So in OpenGate, can I put on the guidelines for horizontal and vertical?
Yes, so if you do a 7K OpenGate image, you can put your 16:9 vertical.
Yeah.
So I actually just got off the call with Canon Inc. today. So actually, let's see if we can find that. Go to aspect marker setting, marker 1. Oh, look at this. Hold on. Two options.
Settings, because the main thing of OpenGate is being able to shoot and then export in multiple formats.
Yep. There are a couple other video feature upgrades. So you now have 4 custom white balance settings instead of 1. There's also an auto white balance responsiveness setting, which is interesting that I'll have to play with. And in 1080p, there's an option to activate a digital zoom. So you can have like a button basically appear on the screen and like zoom in or zoom out of the sensor, which I don't know if I would use, but maybe if you're only shooting in 1080p, that might be a useful feature for you. Now in the past, Canon has come under fire for their cameras overheating, which I can assure you under normal use is not something that you should be worried about. Now I did do some tests and I figured that the most intensive mode would just be to shoot in RAW. So I shot in RAW, 30p, OpenGate, and it recorded for 50 minutes before I filled up my 1 terabyte CF Express Type B card. So I formatted the card, plugged it back in, and let it run for another 40 minutes. So it was like an hour and 37 minutes total before the battery died. And I think in that time I got to a maximum of like 4 ticks on like the heating scale. But apparently the more intensive modes are when you're doing like RAW plus proxies or doing some of the more compressed video formats. So depending on your configuration, you might end up running into some sort of a limit, but under normal use case, if you're just shooting regular 4K, fine, oversampled, DCI in 60p, you shouldn't have any issues. I should also mention that there's a new digital image stabilization mode called Subject Tracking IS, and it has 2 sub modes. So Will and I tested it, and the first one stabilizes around the center of the frame, or you can change it to like whatever you're selected on. So if you're like auto-focused on a subject, it will try to like, the best way I can describe it is if you grab your camera and you're tracking something and you kind of like go like this, it's almost like the frame rubber bands around that subject. So it is a digital crop, probably not useful if you're trying to get like an ultra wide view and then it crops in, but if you are trying to have the footage look super stable, of course, the benefits of having that 7K sensor is you can crop in and still get a great 4K image. So the only thing that's missing that I wish it had that would make it like the perfect run and gun, because obviously it has IBIS. The C50 doesn't have IBIS, which is something that upset a lot of people. Again, different type of camera for a different type of user, but the R6 Mark III doesn't have anamorphic D-squeeze. So it has OpenGate, but combining OpenGate with an anamorphic lens, you'd have to either use a monitor to preview it. Of course, you can de-squeeze it later, but if you're doing social content, YouTube content, whatever, TikTok, you can record basically an OpenGate and have way more flexibility to reframe because you're getting 4K, just over 4K vertical. So you can do a 4K vertical crop and then a 7K and then downsample it so the image looks really sharp. And I will say, oversampled the fine video mode, so like 4K and 4K DCI fine, looks really sharp, which is something that the original R6 and R6 II didn't have.
And how much does this cost?
$27.99 US.
That's pretty good.
You can check your local currencies with the link down in the description.
Does anyone want to buy my R6 Mark II?
Same. I'll be selling mine right after this. It's very impressive. We got everything, ladies and gentlemen. Sony gang, you're cooked. A7 IV, whatever you're waiting for, just go buy your Canon R6 Mark III. I think I forgot to mention to you, there's also a slow and fast mode. See that? S&F. So basically what this is, it's a combination of time-lapse and slow-mo video. So from what I understand, if you use 120 frames in the normal mode, you get audio. If you use it in the S&F mode, you don't get audio. Or you can do like time-lapses. So hold on, let me show you. So in the recording size menu, you can say, of course, 4K, 2K, whatever. then you go over 1, and now you have, so 196, so whatever frame rate you want, right? 1 frame per second.
And then does that automatically time lapses it?
That would be a time lapse. Because before, if you wanted to do a time lapse, you had to go into a time lapse menu and it was like, turn off this setting, turn off that setting. Now it's a dedicated menu where you can say, you know, do I want to shoot in log? Do I want to shoot in whatever?
Okay, that's a lot more specific than you could get before.
It is a lot more specific, and I think it just makes it easier to access. Will's like, I'm never gonna use this feature. But it's there in case you want it. I think for the first time, it's a Canon camera where anything that I would have to say about it negatively is just like a silly wish list item.
Okay, because Canon always does this where everyone goes, I can't wait for Canon to come out with a new camera because it's gonna have A, B, C, D. This has, with a couple very nitpicky exceptions, pretty much everything everyone hoped that this camera would have.
I'll probably discover a few more niche issues over the coming weeks as I test it, but I guarantee they won't be things that will affect your buying decision. In my eyes, the R6 Mark III is an obvious winner in the full frame value option category because it basically feels like you're getting a flagship camera. So if you want to check it out, make sure to check out the links below. And as always, grab your camera, get out, and go shoot photos.